Well, hey guys, today I want to talk about the resupply strategy for my upcoming through hike in the Brooks Range of Alaska. I want to break everything down and show you guys exactly what I'll be eating for 19 days in the Alaskan wilderness. So over the years here on the channel, I've done a ton of different food resupply videos showing you guys what I eat on the trail, how many calories I try to get every day, and what I actually do to resupply and what my strategy is. But for this trip in particular, I'm having to do things completely different than what I've done in the past. If I was hiking something like, say, the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail, I know that I can start with a certain amount of food, and then every so many days I can go into a town, stop at a gas station, a convenience store, find food, and resupply for my next stretch. Well, with this 400-mile through hike through the gates of the Arctic, there are no towns, there are no stores, gas stations, convenience stores. There's actually only one lodge that I'm gonna come across 6 days in. So for this hike, I've had to plan out all of my food beforehand and then mail it off to myself to be dropped off in certain locations along the route. For this trip, I'm gonna be starting with 6 days of food, and then I have 3 main resupplies. So before I go over exactly what I'm gonna be eating on the trail, how many calories, my fuel, everything, I wanna show you guys what 19 days of food looks like for me and what I'm gonna be sending off to myself in Alaska.
All right, so here is all 19 days of food that I will be living off up in Alaska during my hike. But like I said, these will be broken up into different resupplies. You'll notice that, like usual, with all of my trail food, I break each day down into separate Ziploc bags. This keeps me from overeating and knowing exactly what I have for each day. And it helps me keep more organized when I'm dividing everything up into different resupply boxes. So the top 6 bags of food will be what I'm going to start with from day 1 up until my first resupply. That first resupply will be a 4-day food drop. The next will be the smallest at 3 days. And then the last resupply will be 6 days. So you'll notice here at the bottom, I have 1 extra freeze-dried meal that I'll basically carry with me until I need it. So I'll be carrying that from day 1, possibly until the last day on the trail. And really that's just to have 1 extra meal in case we get into a pinch, things are taking longer, or maybe I'm just really burning some calories towards the end and I just need an extra meal. So that's in there as kind of a backup. But you'll also notice here at the bottom that I have some bags of nuts, a couple bags of pretzels, some things of tortillas, and some bags of candy. And all of those are individually portioned out for different resupplies. And those are really just to get extra calories added on to these separate days of food. Specifically, the tortillas are broken into how many I need for each resupply to make at least 1 lunch wrap every single day, to make basically a sandwich. With the nuts, the pretzels, and the candy, those are really just extra calories that I can eat during lunch with those wraps. So that's how I'm able to get more calories for my food throughout the day. I actually have 1 more bag of pretzels and 1 more bag of candy to get that I'll be starting with. So all of these will actually be sent off to my resupply boxes up in Alaska.
All right, so the only thing that I did not show in that full layout was my fuel. And with some of those resupplies, I will be sending myself a bottle of heat. Actually, 2 of those resupplies, the first and the third. And that's because I'm using an alcohol stove. So for the hike, I'll be carrying a bottle of alcohol, 8-ounce bottle of alcohol. This will get me through at least 6 days. So every resupply that I'm doing, I'll be able to get a bottle of this and top it off. And I've actually been able to mail these to myself via UPS ground. So that's one of the main reasons I went with alcohol. So like I said, I will be doing 3 resupplies when I'm out there. The first resupply I'm actually gonna be mailing to a lodge. So 6 days in, we will be coming across a lodge, and I've sent a box there. Not only a box of food, but a bottle of fuel. At that resupply, it will be a 4-day resupply. My second day or my second resupply, will actually be dropped off by a bush plane. So the person that owns the lodge also is a bush plane pilot, and he will be flying our food out to a certain spot, putting it in bear canisters, and we'll be resupplying off of that. And my third and final resupply will be another 6 days to get me to the end, and that will be cached by myself. So this sounds kind of confusing, but when I pick up my first one at the lodge, I'll also be picking up my third resupply, hiking out a day to a certain spot, caching it, hiking back, and then continuing to do the route, which means the third resupply will be cached by me. It'll just be out there waiting for me, tied up in the wilderness. So to start off, like I said, 6 days of food looks like this. This is how much food I'll be starting off with. So the 6 days of food weighs in at 11 pounds and 6 ounces, and I'm getting about 3,400 to 3,500 calories a day. Now I know what you're saying to yourself, Darwin, 3,400 to 3,500 calories a day is not enough, especially if you're burning something like 7,000 or 8,000 calories. And you're correct. When you're doing something like a long distance hike like this or an expedition, you're always in a calorie deficit. But it all comes down to weight and room and size and all of that stuff. So I'm pretty happy with what I was able to get for 3,500 to 3,500 calories. And it's better than what I've done in the past on some of my thru hikes where I've only gotten 2,500 calories a day. So I'm pretty happy with this. The other thing is I did it completely different as far as what type of food that I'm eating. There's no couscous in this bag, my friends. Let's open it up. I'll spread it all out and I'll show you guys what I'm eating every single day.
All right, so this is my first 6 days of food all laid out, but actually one of the days is up here at the top with my extras just because I didn't have enough room to lay it all out on the rug. So what you're gonna notice with all of these days that are laid out is I've tried to change up what I was eating every single day as far as breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even snacks. So I've given myself some different options that kind of go back and forth every day just to make sure that I'm not getting burned out. Each day really breaks down to coffee and breakfast, 2 snacks before lunch, a lunch, 2 snacks after lunch, a dinner, and then some end of day treats. And like I said, I do break all of my days into individual Ziploc bags to keep everything organized and separated, so you'll see those at the top. You'll also notice that on day 1, I don't have a breakfast and I don't have a lunch, and that's because we're going to be starting in a town that morning, and I'll be eating breakfast in town, and then usually I like to carry out a sandwich or something from town for my first day of lunch, so you're not going to see that here because that's the plan. And then up here at the top, all of these items are things that I'll be eating every single day with lunch and as a snack. So you'll see my tortillas. I have a little bag of bacon bits that I can add to some of my lunches for some extra calories and fat. A bag of candy for snacking throughout the day to get a little sugar rush, and some nuts and pretzels as an added extra side for my lunch to make sure I'm upping those calories in the middle of the day. So if we go ahead and look at a typical whole day of food, let's start here with day 2. You can see that I have a breakfast, which is a little waffle thing that I found at a grocery store, and some coffee. Then I have 2 different protein/snack bars to eat between breakfast and lunch. For lunch, I have one of 2 different variants, and this is a chicken salad that I made. So it's freeze-dried chicken, some spicy jalapeno crisps, mayo, and mustard. Then next up, I have 2 more snack bars or protein bars, or I guess in this case, cookies to eat after lunch, between lunch and dinner. Then at the bottom here, I have my first freeze-dried dinner, which is a peak refuel meal. This is a chicken coconut curry, but again, that varies every single day, so I'm not eating the same thing twice in a row. So the next one would be a chicken Alfredo, then I have a white chicken chili, and so on and so forth. And then at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, after I eat dinner, I have a couple little snacks. So I have a couple of gin-gins, which I like to eat out on the trail. It kind of helps settle my stomach if it's sour during the day. A little piece of dark chocolate, and then the last thing I have is a little pack of electrolyte mix to make sure that I'm getting all the salt and magnesium put back into me after losing it with sweating every day. If we go to the next day, day 3, you'll notice that I've switched some stuff up for breakfast, and instead of the waffle thing, I now have a Bobo's oatmeal bar and coffee. My 2 snacks are a bit different than the earlier day. My next lunch is another kind of lunch wrap, and that is 2 things of almond butter and a thing of strawberry jam. After lunch, I have 2 more snack bars that are a little bit different than the day before, and then I have another freeze-dried meal for dinner. And again, at the end of the day, 2 Gin Gins, a different chocolate, and some electrolyte mix. Up here at the top, let's go over kind of these extra things that I have in each resupply. The first thing you'll notice is this little baggie, and this is just kind of extra stuff. So in there, I have some hot peppers, some like red pepper flakes for spicing up my meals, extra electrolyte packets, extra Gin Gins, and extra coffee. Next up, I have multivitamins. So that's 3 multivitamins every morning. I have my tortillas for all 6 days plus 1 extra. I have the bacon bits that I can add to my chicken salad, or again, almond butter wrap if I'm feeling funky. I have a little bit of candy to chew on throughout the day. These are the Chewy Sweet Tart Minis. This is kind of my favorite type of candy to eat on the trail. I have a baggie of high-fat, high-calorie nuts, which is a mix between macadamias and pistachios, and a thing of my favorite trail pretzel, which are Dots seasoned pretzels. So that is not too bad for as many calories as I'm getting, as much weight as it is, in the actual footprint and size to get me through the first 6 days.
All right, so there you go. As you can see, I did things completely different. This time I did all freeze-dried dinners. Why? Because I know that I can get enough calories and enough protein for a small package and a low amount of weight. I did my lunches different. Doing that chicken salad that I prepared here, again, making sure I'm getting enough calories, making sure I'm getting enough protein every day, and the almond butter and jelly sandwiches, same thing. I really wanted to focus on making sure I was getting good enough protein, good enough fat, and good enough calories for a small package for this trip. The other thing I really tried to focus on was making sure that I was not repeating every day. So my dinners, my lunch, my breakfast, my snacks, every single day alternates to make sure that I'm not eating the same thing 2 days in a row to hopefully help with burnout. Typically on a trip like this, you burn out from food, eating the same thing every day. And I know it'll happen, but hopefully this will help push it off a little bit longer. And like I said, the other thing that I'm doing is the alcohol. Making sure that I'm sending myself alcohol in some of those resupplies. So I'll be sending one to that first drop at the lodge, and then I'll be carrying one out to my 3rd drop to make sure that I can top off my fuel bottle. And yeah, that's it. That's all the food that I'll be carrying for 19 days in the Alaskan wilderness. Speaking of that, what is your kind of go-to staple food that you always carry on long trips? Whether it's a backpacking trip or a big expedition like this. Are there certain freeze-dried meals that you love, that you have as a staple in your kit? Or is there a certain lunch that you figured out and prepared before you go out there? Leave me something down below and let me know your thoughts. Guys, the next video that I have coming out is showing you guys how I'm going to pack all this gear and 6 days of food at a time into my backpack. So how I pack my pack video, Alaska edition. So keep an eye out for that. I hope you're doing well. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. I hope you're taking care of each other. I love you. And as always, thanks for watching.